Every step towards your goals requires sacrifice, suffering, struggle, and tireless exertions of passionate action. Martin Luther King Jr. once said that human progress is neither automatic nor inevitable. The steps to becoming great are not giant leaps, but small steps of moving forward each moment. Life is a long road, so we stay focused, we stay hopeful, and we keep moving forward. There's a reason the windshield is so much larger than the rearview mirror. The longer we keep looking back, we don't just miss what's ahead, but the road ahead can become more dangerous than the one behind. The most important thing we can do is respond to everything in life with a resolve to learn and be better than we were the moment before. We believe that progress is greater than perfection, that becoming is greater than being, and that we'll become greater by moving always forward.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the podcast, Always Forward. Good morning, Jameson.
Morning, Phil. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Good.
Weather's over.
Weather's over. It's not raining anymore.
No.
Great.
All right. Well, everybody, welcome to the show. First, want to thank our sponsors.
Yeah, thanking Boxstar Apparel. And good news, we do have our promo code set up with them now. So if you guys go to boxstarapparel.com, shop around. When you go to checkout, you can use the promo code FORWARD, and you'll be able to get buy one, get one half off of whatever items are in the cart. And so they've set us up with that promo deal, so you guys as listeners can use that promo code FORWARD at boxstarapparel.com. So check it out.
And then if you go in there, they have all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it's great. So,
Yep.
Cool. Well, today we're going to be talking about, health, fitness, and really kind of diving into like what is fitness.
Yeah.
And how do we define it? How does the world define it? And kind of how that intermingles, and then what kind of separates how we define it more than the rest of the world.
Yeah, I think so. We're changing gears a little bit. Whereas our first couple of episodes, we talked mostly about just kind of like lifestyle more than anything, mentality, those kinds of things. And so we are obviously a gym, and so our demographic, while it's great if we have listeners who don't work out, because I do think that there's useful content for that. We do want to press into this pretty heavily on a consistent basis as well. And so fitness, health, wellness, all of that. And I think ultimately the first question we have to answer for people is when it comes to why they should do CrossFit versus why they should do something else is, well, what are you trying to achieve in the first place? What is fitness? Whenever people are like, all right, I need to get fit, or I need to get healthy, or I need to get in shape. What does that mean? And nobody really knows what that means. And so I think the reason we want to do this podcast today is because we want to simplify it to the point where it's easy to understand. And so we don't want to use a lot of terms that no one gets, a lot of like the 10-syllable words or anything like that. And so we want to keep it short and simple. And this is how we define fitness. This is how CrossFit defines fitness. And this is the definition of fitness that actually has like implications on the real world life. So the issue is like the dictionary definition of fitness is to be fit, which doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't.
So like there is really no definition of fitness. And then even if you go into the NSCA definition of fitness, they don't even like attempt it. And so it's like one of the leading organizations and accreditations for trainers and for exercise science, and it doesn't even attempt a definition at the very thing it's trying to achieve. And so at the origins of CrossFit, Greg Glassman, the founder, thought, well, this is the issue. We need to remedy this. We got to come up with a definition that is measurable. And so in a simplistic sense, we want to provide that clarity to our clients and anybody who goes, well, why can't I just do this on my own? Like, why do I need to do CrossFit? So yeah, that's why we want to talk about this.
Perfect.
Define it.
The big key word there today is measurable.
Yeah.
And that's I think the thing that kind of separates us from everybody else.
Yeah.
Anywhere you go is we actually have a formula to measure performance and to measure fitness and wellness.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so let's kind of go into that. Okay. First, let's go into kind of from top-down view, 10,000 view, right, of like across what is fitness and how we measure it, and then how it's measured, and then we'll kind of deep dive in a little bit further.
So CrossFit's CrossFit's definition of fitness is like threefold. It's like a three-headed thing that is all-encompassing. And so I guess we'll just go through the three. Yep. So the first measures of fitness that CrossFit takes has to do with your 10 general physical skills. And so it measures it based on your abilities in 10 specific areas. And so like I've got those written down, so I'm just going to list them. And so those 10 areas are cardiovascular, respiratory endurance, stamina, strength, flexibility, power, speed, coordination, agility, balance, and accuracy. And so across those 10 things, CrossFit wants to focus on improving and enabling individuals in all 10 of those areas. And so it's like an all-encompassing thing. And so CrossFit's method for this, the definition of CrossFit, not fitness, but CrossFit itself, is constantly varied functional movements performed at high intensity. And so in that definition, in the methodology of CrossFit, we're going to focus on all 10 of these things. So when you come into our gym, we're going to focus on your cardio and respiratory health and ability. We're going to focus on your stamina. We're going to focus on your strength, your flexibility, all of the 10 skills and abilities. And so that's like their first focal point is, can we make you good at all 10 of these things, not just 2 of these 10 things, not just 1 of these 10 things? So can we measure improvement and ability in all 10 of these areas? And so that's like their first focus and focal point of, you can't be fit unless you can do all of these things. And so there was at the origins of this thing back in like early 2000s, Mark Allen, who was a triathlete, was labeled fittest on earth. So they put Mark Allen under a bench press, and he got stuck under his body weight. And so Mark Allen clearly did not demonstrate all 10 physical skills and abilities because there was strength lacking, whereas his cardio and like
stamina.
His stamina, his respiratory like endurance, all of that stuff is really, really great. He doesn't contain all 10 general physical abilities and skills. And so CrossFit is saying we want to have a more all-encompassing view of this. Like, how do you get good at each part rather than focusing on one skill or one trade? And so ultimately, like CrossFit, while a sport, yes, its first and foremost mission is to make people healthy, to make people well. And to be well and to be healthy, you don't have to focus on one specific skill, on one specific ability, because you're not a skill-based or an ability-based or a technique-based performing athlete. You're a performing human being in day-to-day life, and you need to be good at these 10 things to do that effectively and functionally. And so, yeah, that's their first measure is 10 things, these 10 general skills, these 10 general abilities. We're going to focus on every single one of them, and you are not fit until you are capable in all 10 areas.
Yeah.
And so that's not to insult or degrade anyone's ability.
Any triathletes,
absolutely not.
They're kind of like other sport.
Right. It's just not the measure of fitness at that point. Because to be functionally fit and to be well in that area, you need to be able to perform in all 10 of those spaces, regardless of what kind of comes at you in that.
Well, that's so CrossFit's always kind of said, we want somebody that can do a 500-pound back squat and run a 5-minute mile.
Yeah.
Or sub 6.
Right.
That would be, and we're getting close to there.
Right.
Right? Austin, is it Emalello?
I don't know how to pronounce his name. He works for CrossFit headquarters.
He ran the Boston Marathon.
Yeah.
And he did a 600-pound deadlift before he ran the marathon.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was his goal. He basically wanted to prove CrossFit's methodology so intently. And so this guy works for CrossFit HQ. He does their staff seminars and all that kind of stuff. And he wanted to prove CrossFit's methodology as effective by PRing his deadlift at 600 pounds on the same day that he had already qualified and run the Boston Marathon. Now, a 600-pound deadlift is not going to win the world championship. It's not going to win a powerlifting competition. And I don't know where he finished in the Boston Marathon, but it wasn't first. But if you qualify for the Boston Marathon, that's impressive enough. Let alone completing it. Yeah. And so his clear abilities are like there. I would imagine there is nearly no one else that ran the Boston Marathon that can deadlift 600 pounds. And the majority of people who can deadlift 600 pounds that you would interact with on a consistent basis, there's no way they're going to go run a marathon or a half marathon or a 5K. And so it's just the proving of the methodology of fitness means these 10 elements and being able to be good at all of them.
Yeah.
And to move quickly into the second part, essentially it's the exact same thing where you need to be able to perform well. So their second definition of fitness is the view that you need to be able to perform well at any task imaginable. And that's where the functionality comes into play. And so it's the unknown and the unknowable is something that's said often in CrossFit. It wants to prepare you for the unknown, prepare you for the unknowable. And so CrossFit ultimately wants to begin to, I wrote this down. Yeah. So CrossFit ultimately wants to strive to blur the distinction between cardio and strength training because nature has no regard for this distinction. And so we want to train people to the point where whatever comes at them in life, you're not going to pick up a 500-pound grocery bag, and I understand that, but you are going to bend down and pick things up very often, or you're going to find yourself in some environment where you want to be able to have the capability and ability to perform well in that environment, regardless of what comes at you. And so that's the second definition of fitness is even beyond functionality of day-to-day life, we're going to throw anything at you, and we want you to be able to perform well in it. And if all you can do is perform well at one of the 10 tasks we give you, then that's not fitness. Yeah. And so those are kind of the first two. They kind of go, they all go hand in hand, but these first two are very, very similar in the way that these are the 10 measurables that we're going to take, the 10 actual skills and abilities that we're going to measure by. And then the second element of this is going, can you be good at everything?
It transfers right over.
Right.
It's like, I'm going to give you this scenario, and you have to use these 10 things to prove and perform in this scenario.
Yeah, absolutely. So those are those are kind of the first two.
Yeah,
is exact and measurable actions, abilities, skills, and then the implementation of here is any combination of any movements and any loads or whatever based relative to your body weight and ability at the time, and so can you perform well in that? Because if you're only good at one thing, you're not fit, essentially.
Yeah. You're not as fit as you could be.
Sure.
So I know the pyramid, you have nutrition starts at the bottom.
Right.
And then metabolic conditioning.
Right.
And so then it goes up from there, right? Where sports at the very top.
Yeah.
And it's this little bitty tiny sliver, right?
Yeah.
And I think people focus on a lot of that stuff at the top, but let's kind of talk about the bottom.
Okay.
So you have nutrition, and we're going to kind of deep dive in that couple episodes after this. But then metabolic conditioning. So let's kind of touch on that. What is metabolic conditioning?
Yeah.
And then how, what are those pathways and kind of how do we measure that?
Okay. So this will be the most sciencey part.
Yeah.
And in the most simplistic terms, your metabolic pathways are essentially the pathways that provide energy for all of your actions, for all of human movement, for any output of your energy or your abilities, your power, your strength, all of that. Your metabolic pathways are essentially the power for those things. And so you have three metabolic pathways. You have your phosphagen pathway, your glycolytic pathway, and then your oxidative pathway. And the first two, your phosphagen and your glycolytic, are what we would call anaerobic. They are trained and developed during anaerobic activity, anaerobic exercise. And then your oxidative pathway, the third one, is your aerobic work. And so very simply put, your phosphagen pathway is trained and is utilized really in high intensity, maximum power bursts of seconds. And so you think about
less than a minute.
Yeah, you are enacting and using your phosphagen metabolic energy system whenever you're performing a set of 3 or 5 deadlifts that are heavy, or back squats, or you're under a heavy load and you're trying to move it in a quick amount of time. You are in that phosphagen energy system. So phosphagen is very, very short, very, very powerful, and very, very challenging. And then your glycolytic beyond that is a little bit longer of a time frame, and so it's in that lasts under a few minutes there. but still is anaerobic in a sense that it's very high intensity, very, very high power output. So your movements for that in CrossFit jargon, in CrossFit world, your glycolytic energy system would be utilized in workouts like Grace. So your 30 clean and jerks for time, or your glycolytic pathway would be used in Fran, the worst workout in all of CrossFit. Your 2159, the 2159 thrusters and pull-ups. That's going to take you, depending on your fitness level and your abilities, it's going to take you anywhere from 3 to maybe 6 minutes. And so those are your glycolytic energy system movements, and that's where you're going to really, really engage that energy system. Your oxidative system is where the majority of human beings spend their time whenever they're trying to get, quote unquote, in shape, fit. Your oxidative energy system is your more comfortable, sometimes challenging for sure, but is your more comfortable energy system that people understand how to get into a little bit better. It's a higher heart rate than resting. It's more challenging than sitting on the couch, but you are going to get into your oxidative pathway in your long-term endurance-based events and activities. And so from a movement perspective, you're talking about a 5K or obviously a marathon. So very, very low output as far as power, but for a really long term.
It's like longer than 15 minutes, I think is.
Well, really, I think it's identified as just longer than several minutes.
Yeah.
It has a whole lot more to do with like your output and then the time frame.
Heart rate, it's everything, all the measurable.
Right. Right. And so, I mean, ultimately, if done well and not done in intensive bursts, like interval bursts, a CrossFit workout that would be oxidative would be like Murph. A very, very long, grueling, methodical chipper type workout. And if you're going to do that well, you're going to be moving consistently and constantly through it and not performing in quick interval bursts. Now, some people, when they do Murph, if you watch them, come in here and they smack 10 pull-ups and then they rest for twice as long. 10 pull-ups, rest for twice as long. But that's not really your goal or your target in a workout like that. You're trying to hit that oxidative energy system. So that long-term
consistent
aerobic capacity training. And so those are your 3 metabolic pathways. Now, CrossFit focuses on all of them. They would say to be holistically fit, we're going to train all 3 metabolic pathways and energy systems because you can't be a holistic, healthy individual with only one of those pathways being trained. Yeah. So how else do we need to hit that to provide more?
So it's like power lifters.
Yeah.
Right. They're going to 1 rep max. They're going to perform all these lifts and they're not going to be able to run.
Right.
Right. They're not going to be able to do that oxidative. They're not going to, they may not even hit the middle there.
Yeah.
They may just be right there in that phosphagen, right? Where it's short bursts and that's it. It's like Matt Fraser, when he was doing Olympic weightlifting, he would walk up the stairs and be so out of breath that he was like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like, how is this possible?
Yeah, and I guess that is a good segue into trying to answer the question that people ask is like, why aren't powerlifters fit? Like, why would we say that they're not? And I'm not saying that they're not impressive.
No.
They're unbelievably impressive.
I can't do what they do.
But it's sport specific at that point. And so to your point, literally if you're a power lifter, an ollie lifter, a strength biased athlete in a strength biased sport, like they're not going to train their much glycolytic. They're certainly not going to train oxidative because it's bad for your power output.
For your power output, yeah.
And so they're going to stay in those very, very short, high intensity, heavy power intensive loads and bursts because that's what they're training for and that's what they need to perform in. And so they're not going to perform the holistic approach, the holistic method, because of the fact that it actually damages their ability to perform in their very specific set of skills. And so I'm not saying it's not impressive, I'm just saying it's not fitness because it's not holistic. And so quite simply put, if you are a role specific athlete, and then let's move outside of being an athlete. If you're just a person who wants to get in shape and you only focus on one thing.
On the strength part, let's say.
You are most likely doing things that actually harm the other elements of health. And so, like, you don't want to walk up the stairs and be out of breath. That's not fitness. But to perform well in their area, they need to do that.
And they're not going to be flexible.
No.
Their stamina, Like
Right.
there's a lot of markers that like
Right.
if you focus on one of those markers,
Right.
there are so many that
Right.
you're not going to hit. Because I was a triathlete for a couple of years, and yeah, my power and a lot of that stuff kind of went away, and I've now finally kind of got it back, working on it through the past several years and doing CrossFit.
Yeah.
And because I was doing high intensity intervals, but we were doing like 5 to 10 intervals,
Right.
and so you were constantly moving like Murph.
Right.
So
Right.
Well-
yeah, and I would say to that too, to help maybe solve a little bit of confusion, to help attack one of the great myths of fitness, is when our average client that comes in here that we see, what do you want out of this? Well, I want to lose weight. Okay. So what they think they need to do, because this is what they've been convinced by whatever they've read, is essentially, they don't know this, but essentially they feel like they need to just spend all of their time in the oxidative metabolic pathway because cardio burns fat. And when people say cardio, when we say cardio, we mean metabolic conditioning, which is all three pathways. When people say cardio, they mean I need to get on the elliptical for a while.
I need to go
get
run.
Right. I need
Every
to
day.
run. Yeah, exactly. And so that, while yes, oxidative, aerobic, endurance-based cardio burns fat, what has been proven to burn fat way more effectively is anaerobic activity. And so that's why we, when you come in here, say you don't need to go for a run. We need to put you under intensity and under load that's relatively safe for you for intervals to hit these first two pathways. Because when you train your anaerobic pathways, when you train those first two short burst, high power pathways, you actually improve your aerobic pathway too. But when all you do is train your aerobic pathway, it actually harms and damages your anaerobic. So if you are only training aerobic capacity in that oxidative pathway, you're not going to get stronger. If you're training phosphagen and glycolytic pathways and focusing on the movements required to train those two and to enact those two energy systems, you're going to increase your aerobic capacity too, all the while burning fat, building lean muscle. So like on this hand, you have your first two aspects, your first two metabolic pathways. On this hand, on the other hand, you have your oxidative, your high volume and your long-term like cardio, quote unquote cardio workouts. And on one hand, that is great. If that is all you are willing to do, by all means, go and do it because it is better than nothing. But for the time that you could put in, training the other two is way, way more effective because you are going to get a handful of benefits of training your high intensity energy systems that you're not ever going to gain out of training your low intensity, long distance energy pathway. So essentially all the good stuff that you want out of fitness is on the other side of intensity. Whereas what people want is to look good. They want to look better because they want to be confident in themselves. They want to lose fat. They want to gain muscle. And ultimately, people want to just feel better. And so all that good stuff is on the other side of intensity, which is trained ultimately in those first two pathways, those high power pathways. And so that's why we encourage people to do fitness our way, the CrossFit way.
Hard and fast.
Yeah, because the benefits from it are so much greater than, all right, I'm gonna turn my show on and hop on this elliptical or hop on this
bike, or stair climber.
Absolutely. So like the benefits are just so much better. You get out what you put in, and what you put in is typically a good bit harder on those high intensity ends. And so I guess that's why we do things our way.
Oh.
So it yields a greater benefit.
So we'll get into kind of now how that's measured, but we're going to do a hot take real quick.
Okay.
Hot take today. Football
Uh-huh.
or football? Which one is better?
The answer is easy. For the sake of clarity, I'm going to say soccer is greater than football for a million reasons.
Okay.
So
Got World Cup going on right now.
World Cup, women's World Cup
Women's
is going
World Cup.
on right now. Then the U.S. women are
crushing it.
Yeah, they just beat France, which is the host country.
Yeah.
So that's savage. And then the Gold Cup is actually happening, which is like the World Cup for our hemisphere for the men.
Oh, okay.
And the men are doing well too. Our men are historically not great.
No, women are way better.
But it's a brand new team, much younger team now, and the guys are doing well. So like I think the average age of our U.S. men's national team since we failed to qualify for the last World Cup dropped from like nearly 30 to 20. Like our average age dropped 10 years because the team is just, it's a new team.
Yeah.
So it's cool. So I know a lot about soccer. So soccer.
Well, you played soccer.
Yeah. So didn't you too?
Yeah, a long time ago,
Yeah.
though.
That's okay. It's the world sport, Phil.
Yeah,
So
it is true. And I agree.
But
I agree. Soccer.
they are playing NFL games in London now. Did you know that? Like the Seahawks apparently went over to London, and I don't know who they played. Another NFL team. But yeah, like they went over to London and played in like Wembley, which is so weird.
It is weird.
Whatever.
Well, but then you have rugby.
That's true. Savage sport.
Yes.
But
Yes.
I couldn't do that. But yeah, my hot take, absolutely. Soccer is greater than football. Be interested to see what people say, especially in this area.
Yeah, let us know. Soccer is huge in this area.
True.
It is very big. So yeah, let us know in the comments and let us know what you all think.
Absolutely.
So now let's go on to, now we know what fitness is, and we've kind of said, okay, this is how you get fit,
Yeah.
right? Now let's talk about how do we measure if you are fit. So we have a continuum that CrossFit has provided that shows sickness to wellness to fitness. In the world, it's kind of sickness just to wellness. That's kind of like just those two, where we're kind of like, no. Wellness is in the middle. Wellness is being average. You can be above average, and it's okay to be above average.
Right.
And so kind of let's talk a little bit about that, how we determine what that sickness to wellness and how we measure those.
Yeah, well, we were talking about it just before we started recording the podcast, and the way that wellness is defined is doctors would call you well when you are absent of disease. And that's like really, really low-hanging fruit that we want to look way past there. And so we don't want to say that wellness is just being absent of disease. We want to say that wellness is your ability to do those 10 physical and general skills and capabilities, perform well at any action, and to be metabolically fit. Wellness is that, but there is, like you said, like a barrier that can be created between wellness and sickness whenever you surpass wellness and you become fit.
Yeah.
And so, like, we want to focus heavily on not being a strength and conditioning gym, not being a athlete-focused gym, but we want to focus on a method of fitness that causes you to be high-impact, high-performing at a advanced age in your life to keep you out of the nursing home. Want you to be able to get on and off the toilet on your own, because I would say that you can be well absent of disease and unable to get off the toilet yourself, and I wouldn't call that well.
No.
And so we want to train people with that mentality of long-term, like longevity, in it for the long game, functional wellness, and that the fitness continuum, wellness is in the middle. There is a lot of room past wellness, and that's what we're trying to get people to. We're trying to get people outside of that wellness spot, beyond it, to the fitness spot, because then you have created this massive like timeline increase essentially on that continuum. You've got this massive gap between just fitness and wellness that's keeping you from sickness. Like you're not just kind of like riding the line between like, I'm all right, but I'm probably right on the edge of being pre-diabetic, or I'm right on the edge of hypertension or whatever. And we want to just blow that out of the water to where if you went and got your biomarkers or your health markers measured, like the doctor would be going, wow,
what are you doing?
That's really good. Like these are really good. For me, I had to go get some blood work done last year. And since I started this whole CrossFit journey just very personally, like I have experienced like some of the fun benefits. Like I'm more confident in the way that I look. But
Self-esteem.
Yeah, self-esteem, strength, all the 10 general physical skills and abilities, that's great. Like I've improved in those things, and that's been fun. But really the biggest win of this whole process for me is when I got the results of my blood tests back, and was like those biomarkers and those health markers were like way beyond average. And like that was cool to go, this is working.
It's working.
And that's what we want people to experience, is the fact that they can actually take their ability to move the needle on that sickness, wellness, fitness continuum. They can take that into their own hands. They can take into their own hands their ability to move the needle towards wellness, and then to move the needle towards fitness. Essentially, what we're trying to do is combat preventative chronic disease where most people live and maybe they don't know they live there, and they certainly don't know that they possess the ability to get out of that situation on their own.
Let's kind of stop right there because you talked about, maybe they're pre-diabetic. And this is a number that I pulled from the CDC's website. 84 million U.S. people, right, have pre-diabetes. 84 million
are pre-diabetic.
Pre-diabetic. And 90% of them have no clue.
Okay.
So, how that's measured is A1C, fasting blood sugar.
Yeah.
And so, can I talk a little bit about my wife had gestational diabetes, and she went up to the doctor, and they told her, she blew her. You have to drink like the sugar drink, right? And then she had to come back for like the 3-hour test. So she had to take multiple tests, and they're like, "Listen, you're gonna have to take insulin." Now I'm gonna pause right here. Doctors are amazing, right? We need doctors.
Yeah.
But a doctor like can go, "Here you go, let me fix you," right? At this point in time, they're not taught so much of like, "Hey, you can do this on your own to fix yourself." These other things, right? Like I can do surgery and I can fix you, right? Which is what we need them. They're lifeguards, but we need swim coaches as well,
right?
To kind of teach us how to swim,
right?
And so she asked, "Hey, through nutrition, can I change my diet and fix it where I don't have to take insulin?" They were like, "Good luck." They're like, "Probably not. We've never seen anybody do it." So what did she do? She went home, talked to her mom. My mother-in-law is a very holistic person. She reads everything and really does research. It's amazing. And so she went home, started doing nutrition, and like every week would drop her insulin, right? Until where she wasn't taking it. She went back to the doctor. They checked her, and they're like, "What are you doing?"
They're because it's working.
Because it was working. She completely got off her insulin for like the last several months of her pregnancy, which is the hardest part. And they told her like, "Hey, it's only going to get harder." So like, we need swim coaches, right, to help us and move us. And so,
so that metaphor of if your health metaphor is that you are in the water drowning and you're drowning in that moment, you want a lifeguard to come and save you.
Yes.
But what we want to do in the gym is preventative care, meaning we want to teach you how to swim to keep you from having to be saved by the lifeguard in the first place.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So like we are the swim coaches. We're there to help you learn the backstroke, learn the breaststroke so that when life gets hard and you get tired, you can use other things. And that really turns into mental toughness, which kind of now sets in. How do we measure, wellness here in the gym? Because we're not doctors. I can't look at you and be like, "Hey, your resting heart rate is this."
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah. We ask people to measure their wellness and measure their fitness based on those health and those biomarkers. And so those would be, like you said, blood pressure, your body fat percentage, your resting heart rate, your triglycerides, your cholesterol, all of those things. Now, beyond that, we also want to measure your wellness and your fitness based on those 10 general physical skills and abilities. And so if you come in here and you cannot bend down and touch your toes, you're lacking in your flexibility, skill, and ability. And so we want to focus on that.
I've been there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a huge part of it. And so if you are lacking in your cardiorespiratory endurance and ability, then we want to focus on that. If you're lacking in strength, then we want to focus on that. So we want to measure, yes, the sickness, wellness, fitness continuum based on your health and your biomarkers. We also want to measure it based on your capabilities. And so if you came in here and you have the ability to run a mile in under 6 minutes, like that's a really good measure of the fact that you are beyond well. Like you are well on your way, if not having arrived at fit. If you can run a mile in 8 minutes, awesome.
You're at that wellness.
Yeah, you're at that wellness
between
line.
8 to...
Right, which unfortunately is a way higher standard than it should be. Yeah. To be able to run an 8-minute mile in that very specific measurable is very competitive at the moment in people's abilities, because whenever you are trending towards the direction of sickness, you're running 14-minute miles, which is much more likely than running an 8-minute mile for lots of people. To that same capacity, we could find a movement in all 10 general physical skills and abilities and test your sickness, wellness, fitness based on how you perform in that. So again, with flexibility, can you bend down and touch your toes? How is your range of motion in all of these different areas? When it comes to your strength, can you deadlift your body weight? Can you deadlift 1.5 times your body weight? Can you deadlift twice your body weight? If you can deadlift twice your body weight, you're well on your way to fit.
You're fit.
If you can deadlift just your body weight, okay.
You're well.
That's good. I'm glad you can bend down and pick up the same thing that you weigh. That's good. But obviously, as you trend into the more fitness direction, you're creating that barrier between you and sickness. And that's what we're trying to do. If you can't deadlift your body weight, then there are some concerns in terms of like your aerobic capacity. One test we could do is measure how fast you can do a 2K row.
2K row, yeah.
And so if you can do a 2K row in under 7 minutes, dang, like, ow, that's good.
Yeah.
If you can do
if you can
do a 2K row in 9 minutes, okay, that's well. If you are 13 minutes on that 2K row, we got an issue. From a more intensive perspective, how many burpees can you do in a minute? If it's 2, you can't. We
need some work.
Yeah, you're having trouble getting off the ground, and that's an issue. And I would not say that you're well if you cannot get off the ground on your own. If you're doing 5 to 8, okay, cool. If you're doing 10, you're on your way. If you're doing 15, you're more on your way. If you're doing 40, that's awesome.
I want to shake your hand.
Yeah, great job. And so again, it's just all about measuring all of these very specific things so that we can see where you're at on the sickness, wellness, fitness continuum and move you more towards fitness, not so you can be some like shredded, like ripped God, but so you have the ability to create a barrier between you and preventative sickness, preventative chronic disease that millions and millions of people suffer from all the time, like type 2 diabetes, being pre-diabetic, hypertension, all of those things. And then beyond that, man, because we want to be holistic, there's also that third element of sickness, wellness, and fitness that has to do with your emotions and your mentality. That's like, how's your stress? How's your anxiety? Like, how are all of those things? And so,
are you talking to people?
Are you connecting with people? And that's what we're going to talk about the next episode is those 5 factors of health. And so hopefully we'll simplify this even more. Our 5 factors are, we've adopted them from CrossFit New England and what they do. And I think he adopted them from somewhere else. But like, we want to eat, sleep, train, think, and connect. And so we measure those 5 things on that sickness, wellness, fitness continuum. And you can't miss a single one or you start trending in the direction of sickness rather than fitness. And so like to that point, if you're a bodybuilder, man, it's not fitness because you're going to lack in a significant number of those 10 general physical skills and abilities, but you're also probably operating in some nutritional method or strategy that's actually very harmful for your wellness.
Longevity.
Yeah.
That's you're giving up longevity for now.
Yeah.
And I think that's what a lot of like you said, people that are running like 24/7.
Yeah.
Right. They're giving up other things because that's going to break down your body. You're going to get hurt.
Right.
People always say about CrossFit, don't go to CrossFit, you're going to get hurt.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why we watch it, right? We modify workouts.
Right. All activity is going to lead to some sort of like
stress on your body.
Right. So it's just part of it.
Yeah.
So, but I would say too that this is the method like is great for this. People still come in here and the biggest barrier we have to jump over is I want to look better. And that's cool. And you'll get there. It is one of the secondary benefits, but like, the reason that many other methods of fitness aren't actually fitness is because they are not focusing on all of the parts. And to be honest with you, the primary part they're focusing on is like physical aesthetic, the ability to look a certain way. And it's just not the point. Now, we want that to happen, and
it will be a byproduct.
It will be a byproduct. It is absolutely impossible for you to come in here and follow our system and our structure of fitness and not lose body fat and not put on lean muscle mass. If those 2 things aren't happening, we're not doing the right things in the gym. You're not actually following the process. No. You're not actually hitting the method, because one of the measures of wellness and fitness is your body fat percentage. Your body fat percentage is directly correlated to how you look. And so if you are 30 to 35% body fat, you are trending in the direction of some serious health issues. You're trending in the direction of obesity. at that point. 40%, you are obese. And so if you are trending in that, if you are in those numbers, you are trending in that direction. If you are around 20%, cool, you're doing a great job. If you are 10% body fat, you're fit. Also, guess what? You can see your abs.
Yep.
And so like, that's just, we are trending in those directions all the time. And so we will never have a conversation with somebody that comes in here and says, I want a 6-pack. Then don't be here if that's your only goal.
Yeah,
you know, like we could get you there, but we're going to focus on the actual elements of wellness and fitness. And so like, that's why bodybuilding isn't fitness. And that's why what you do at a Globo gym, or for like, that's kind of our term for just like the standard industry gym, the key card access 24/7 gym, that's why it's not fitness, is because you're not focusing on all of the holistic aspects of this. You're not training your 3 metabolic pathways. You're not training all 10 physical skills and capabilities. And for the most part, you're probably harming your ability to create strength and muscle mass and to pack on that lean muscle mass that you want to have that makes you look good, because you're not hitting the intensity. And
you're missing that key element.
Yeah, not to like smack the Globo gym or anything, but like, actually, I don't really care if we smack it. I hate it. But for the most part, it is what you make it. You can absolutely go into a 24/7 fitness facility and you can make it so useful. Yep. But that's totally your call. You can also go in there and you can sit down on the recumbent bike and accomplish absolutely nothing. And so that's why one of the elements of sickness, wellness, fitness for us is community, is connecting. And when you come in here, you do it with other people. And it's very hard to waste your time. It's very hard not to do what you have to do.
You're not going to hang around very long.
No.
You're going to be here for maybe 1 or 2 classes, and you're going to be like,
if you want to be here if you want to be here to just coast and waste your time, like it's a very odd environment to do that in, because no one else is doing it.
Exactly.
So everybody is pushing, because everybody is, when they come in here every day, what we want to train people's mentalities in is we're moving the needle from either sickness to wellness or wellness to fitness today.
Well, thank everybody for listening today. Please hit that subscribe button down there at the bottom.
Absolutely.
On YouTube. We're still working on getting us on iTunes and some other pathways for podcast.
Yep.
Also want to thank Boxstar again. Remember, you can use the code FORWARD to move forward with your orders.
Buy one, get one, half off from Boxstar. And yeah, hopefully by next week we'll be on iTunes. We're in like the review part right now, so should be good to go.
Perfect. And we'll be talking about the 5 factors of health.
5 factors of health next week, taking everything we just said. It's maybe a little bit still kind of confusing, or, you know, it has a little bit of mystery to it, and even simplifying it a little bit further.
Perfect. Thank you, guys.